This week on the SRC podcast, we cover all the semi-final action from the Cup and Plate, preview the finals, and look over, was this really a good Cup season? Join us to find out. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the SRC podcast. Joining me, Big M, as always, the one and only Double R, Mr. Rob Reese. Good evening, my friend. How are we?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. It's a late Wednesday night recording.
Oh, yes, very late. We're already past 9:30. I'm very tired. Rob's very tired. Let's see how fast we can run through this. So, dealer's choice, or yeah, go on.
Go on.
We'll start with the plate, and we'll start up north, and we'll make our way down. So, first semi-final in the inaugural SRC plate semi-final. RGC at home to Bridgend, and a bit of a blowout. In the end, at least, we try to talk up Bridgend a bit. I know we both backed RGC for this, and it's kind of hard not to see otherwise. But this was a very, very commanding performance. 21-0 up at halftime, finished 42-5. Like, they had an answer for everything Bridgend threw at them, and we know how good RGC are at attack, especially on those fast pitches and obviously their home ground.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing it wasn't a little bit closer. I sort of saw RGC getting away with a little bit. I said Parry gets a couple of tries. He's looking really good this season, I'll be honest. So Sam Jones grabbed a couple. And it just, when you blitz into 21-0, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hang on, what's happening? Let's calm this down. And you struggle to calm RGC down when you're up at their place. They play with such that sort of raw edge of they don't know what they're going to do next. Never mind how you're going to know what they're going to do. And Bridgend just couldn't build off it. And I feel that they'll be a bit disappointed that they haven't structured it a bit better, that they've allowed them to just eke that lead out. And it's a consolation score. That they missed the conversion, which already means you're still 3 scores behind. And you're going, well, you got to get four tries for their 3 straight away, just to lead that game as a result of a misconversion, which in itself says the value of somebody like Billy McBride, who not only leads the attack for them to score those great tries, but nails those extra points, those crucial points. And then it just felt like you think, they missed the conversion, comeback's not on, and they pull away again. And RGC went down to 14 men at one stage in this, and still managed to score that up to 35 points, and then kicked on and got more from there. So really bad day at the office for Bridgend. I just feel for RGC that they've moved the plate final to a neutral ground, which means they have to travel all the way south, despite being, I'll be honest, by far the best side left in the plate.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come on to the venue and some of the decisions regarding the cup later on. But overall, this is just a very clinical RGC. 6 from 6 conversions for Billy McBride. We'll look at the top scorers in a little bit, but he's had 3 starts and 1 bench appearance. He completely missed the Cardiff win, which was 34-5 if I'm remembering right, and it was like 14 points on that from kicks. He well up there when we have a look in a bit. They are looking very, very dangerous. And one thing RGC have always seemed to have done is they keep to, a very low number squad, around 30, maybe 35 players. They have their core and they don't shift from that much. And we're seeing some really, really great performances out of them right now. I'm really hoping it'll kick on after the final and to this last block of league fixtures, because it's going to be very intense and very interesting how the table actually ends up, because those bottom five spaces is Christ. Anyone can bounce anywhere. It's going to be absolutely intense. So we fly all the way down to Swansea. No, Dunvan. No, Gawatan. Gawatan for the other semi-final, which saw Swansea RFC hosting Carmarthen Quins. This fixture already been played in the league, of course, with Quins coming out 17-14 on top at Dunvant on that occasion. This time, slightly different, and depending on whose account you're going off, Carmarthen Quins lost both their halfbacks. Well, at least one of them in the first 10 minutes, and probably both within the opening 20. And we've already spoken about the state of Carmarthen and their halfbacks. Like, quite literally, you got one with the Scarlets, one out injured. Basically, the utility player in Evan Davis, who was at 10, he's now gone off. And you've got a 9/10 in Bowen Clark. I think he's only 19-20 coming off the bench to play that role. They've also only got really two established scrum halves in Rodri Davis and Rodri Lewis. I don't think we've seen Rodri Davis. Might have seen him in one or two fixtures at the start of the season, but we really haven't seen him. Rodri Lewis goes off really early, and that ends up with Jack Howell, a 13 normally moving into 9. So it was an uphill job, more or less halfway through that first half. But fair play to Quins. They really fought hard. They stuck at it. Sean Evans getting them a try, keeping it close, 7-5 at half time. Really don't know which way this is going to go, but inevitably, not having that sort of control told, and a Matt Prothero hat trick led Swansea to a 21-5 victory.
Yeah, you can just see where the injuries have cost Quins, not just in terms of this game, but across the cup and how they've grown the injury list since they started. Going in at 7-5 down, like I said, it's anyone's game. Quins like it tight. I've always said this season. Their best wins have come when it's a tight game. And I mentioned it last week. I think Swansea's biggest opportunity was the back row battle and those big stars playing well. You depending on who their allocation was going to be, and players like Matt Prothero was playing with the Ospreys, just a couple of seasons ago. Really good player, and ultimately his class has shone through. But when you lose those key positional players early doors, it's not just the change of position and all of that it brings. You've then got boys playing far earlier than they expected. And from a fitness perspective, I've mentioned this before, I don't think Quins are anywhere near the fittest side in the league. I think that is one thing they need to work on massively. When you look at them compared to the other sides that fill those top 4 or 5 spots, and especially when you lose your starting players and boys are coming off the bench to play 60, 70 minutes, they've still got to be able to play that amount of time. And I think you can see that where the youngsters are coming through, maybe not adjusted to senior rugby, just that extra bit of pace, that extra bit of physicality at this level wears you out to cross that hour mark, where normally you'd be good for 80 plus minutes in a lower league.
Yeah. Now, not quite as long as that, but we did get a debutant for Quins in this game. 18-year-old Hudson Nevin, loose head prop, still in school. He's actually with Wales 20s as well. He came on for the last 10 minutes, which I'm just telling you the state of, some of the injuries Quins are that they basically using a schoolboy in the front row. Like, don't get me wrong, this kid is a beast. He is an animal. He's like 6'2", so he's over 100. He's the WU got down is 113 kilos. I've spoken to his old man. He's a few kilos over now since measurement was taken. So he's a big boy. Physically, he coped. He had a couple of scrums done well to the lad. So shout out to Hudson Nevin. He is definitely one we're going to be hearing about in the future. But overall, I think the final try for Prothero was an intercept. So, obviously the element of luck and the reading in that, and obviously desperation for Quins trying to make something happen. I think they should obviously they'd be massively gutted not to have gotten to a final, but they can sit back and go, given everything that's unfolded, this isn't a bad result in the end.
Mm.
And I know we've already said about RGC being the form team in this little plate section. I was just them and Swansea left. But I think given the tiebreakers and how they assigned, third and fourth in the group tables, it would have been Swansea that would have had the home advantage. Because I think they, was it 1-2, drawn one, lost one, and RGC were 2-2. So it's,
Yeah, the fixtures played into their hands for Swansea really because they played Llandovery, but then had the Ebervale game called off, and it's just like that's where it goes. I think the reason they probably had to play this at a neutral venue, if I'm being honest, it was left late, and that's why there's no TV coverage, along with the fact that Whisper are tied up with Six Nations coverage. But I think the reason that they're just chucking it both at the Arms Park late is the Cardiff are already out. They have been for a while. They have been for over a week, or basically 2 weeks. So they knew they had a ground there. They have the capability of it. And I'll be honest, I think they just didn't want the noise of saying, "Oh yeah, we'll do home advantage," and then you got Llandovery in, basically top in the cup, and everyone's going, "Hang on a minute." They had to have 2 points off Ebervale. You got Swansea RGC. Well, there was a tiber there. Quins had a couple of tie points to come out of it. It was only Newport who fulfilled all their fixtures out of the four finalist teams. So sorry, with RGC as well. But you can see how all of these teams and permutations tie over. I'll be honest, I think that's where they've scrapped it together for neutral ground.
yeah. It's like I have actually, gone over these. There was 3 postponements out of the 16 group games,
With an
and
asterisk on one more, right? Let's be honest. The competition committee did say that Quins and Newport was going to be replayed. They offered it to Quins, and Quins would have replayed it if they'd had the time. So we should have had another one there.
yeah, but given what we do have as final tables, I mean, we would have ended up with the teams in the same positions they are. It's highly, very, very highly unlikely there would have been any change. Just look at Swansea, Abu Vale. You can take those 2 points off Swansea, and it doesn't affect their positioning. Pontypool, Quins in the other group. You can, you
I
can, you can,
I
you
think the
can take
problem
them.
is the combination of points. So I think even if you'd said Ebervale Swansea, it was a 6-pointer the last time they met. It was 28-0 up at Ebervale in that fixture. But you say, right, let's forget this points of Swansea, yeah? Ebervale there, even if you said they were going to get 5 points, just even say the 6-pointer, we even go the basic 4, that's 2 more. All of a sudden, I land every game at home when they've already done Llandovery twice with 2 6-pointers this season comes into question. So I'd be honest, I think where the sides fall is pretty much just guesswork at this point, but it's just disappointing because it just feels rushed.
Maybe so. I think
Your
we
fault,
are.
Matt. It's your fault.
Oh, it's all my fault. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the cup then. I'm not in the mood for an argument. I'm too tired for that shit. So we'll start on Saturday, which was Llandovery at home to Pontypool, and two incredibly tasty fixtures. This cup semi-finals have thrown up at us. Regardless how we've come to it, they've given us two absolute belting games. It's a shame that none of them have been covered. So, obviously Llandovery at home against Pontypool. Pontypool come out all firing. They're really up for it. They're banging down the door. And, they go 10-7 up at half time, which, you're at Church Bank. That's brilliant. End of. Obviously, Llandovery come out second half. It turns into a little bit of the Johan Hughes show, and quite a few. What was it? 4 penalties. A converted try himself. It was 23-24 in Pontypool's favour going towards the end, but it was a penalty from Johan Hughes right to the death that stole it. You know, we've spoken about how vital these halfbacks are for Llandovery. Johan Hughes scoring 21 of Quinn's drove us 26 points is absolutely amazing. And in a semi-final, it's a crunch game. It's win or you're out. That's it. Shit or bust. So
Yeah.
he has pulled that one completely out of the bag for Drovers because 23-10 they were plain sailing. They were happy. And I don't know quite where they come from, but tries from Ewan Rosser and Hugh Anderson, really rapid fire. I think it's like 65 plus minutes when the first one came. And they
Yeah.
just flipped the game completely on its head because it looked for all money like London you were walking it at that point.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. So Morgan Lloyd misses out on the start. It doesn't come in. I think straight away that's a big blow. The lineouts were really poor from Pontypool. They were just quite sloppy, making a lot of mistakes and forced errors in that first half, and especially the second 20 minutes. Um, their kicking game was really poor. Harry Ford comes on, absolutely changes the game. He's taking it up to the line. All of a sudden, Pontypool are on the offensive, nothing really to lose. The kicking game improves. And I just think that they're in that position actually that again, their forwards are starting to front up. They've got a couple of key men in that front row down from the Dragons. Scott Matthews, Morgan Allen again, really, really good. It's just that line out. If Pontypool sort that line out, I honestly think they win. And there's complaints about the ref, but it's interesting because I've spoken to people independently. I've spoken to people at Pontypool and I've spoken to people at Llandovery, and they've both come to the consensus that Ben Connor was shit, which says all you need to know about the game and how it was officiated. That both sides felt that they were being harshly done by, for starters, which just sums it up. But it's just sloppy from Pooler at the end. You can see that Llandovery hitting them with that quick attack. That Lee Riccio and Johan Hughes combination. We've mentioned it before. That's what makes Llandovery tick. And the reason they've been pinged late on inside their 22, right in front of the posts, is for not rolling away. The reason you don't roll away is because you're under fucking pressure. So you have that clean break. Oh, hang on. We haven't got a defensive line here. We can't afford to. Oh, hang on. I've just been pinged. So whether people think it's harsh or not, that's born at the pressure and ball speed, which again just comes back to Llandovery love playing on the edge. They're keeping our ball alive. And your players then, like your Scott Matthews, your Morgan Allen, whilst they're very good with ball in hand, struggling to get that slow ruck speed, and it forces the penalty from there. So Pontypool will have a lot of positives out of this, a lot of positives. Like you said, Church Bank is not an easy place to go. They've really competed. They've competed for 80 minutes. Probably about a 20-minute spell in our first half has cost them this game, and some line-outs basics. But yeah, overall, Chief is going to be really pleased with the progress his team has made. And they go back into the league now, in my opinion, probably probably third most excited team going back into this league, because obviously your Llandovery Newport will both be buzzing. Even if they lose the final, they won't be buzzing they lose it, but they're carrying form over. And obviously, the RGC and Swansea take things differently, but yeah, I think Pontypool is in a really good position at the moment. Really good.
This game actually does, take me back to the very first game in SRC. That 21-18 win by Llandovery over Pontypool, going back 12th of September. Well, what would that have been? That would have been 2024. There's a lot of remnants of that because Pontypool were the better team in that game and they just couldn't get over the line.
Yeah.
But it seems very much like they've got everything there. They just need to fine tune and get it all to click at once. And obviously Hardy Ford has been spending a lot of time with Dragons, not getting much game time, but he is, he's in that match day squad, whether it's traveling reserve or not. But it seems as though he's improved massively because normally speaking, Kieran Meek is the one that runs Pontypool. For Harry Ford to come in and not make him look like an amateur because that's the wrong thing, but to be superior to him, that takes some effort. So, fair dues to the boy there. So that one, 26-24 to Drovers. They go on to the cup final. And then on to Sunday. And if we move past how we ended up on Sunday, because that's farcical enough in itself. I still haven't seen the 23 for Ebbw Vale from this game, but I know there was a new fly half starting, and fair play to the boy. He seems to be able to get Ebbw Vale ticking, slotted in pretty seamlessly. Tom Price, 4 conversions, 2 penalties. He's got himself a good little holder there. But, overall, talking about the game, it was first half was it was proper Gwent Derby stuff, what we were used to. They both giving it all they got, fighting against each other, really, really grounding and pounding each other. 17-14 Ebbw winning. Because realistically, I know the way we've been talking recently, even though we backed Ebbw, they shouldn't have. You shouldn't have been in that position with a brand new fly half that didn't have a clue, and obviously the amount of boys that the chopping and changing because of the short notice change to Sunday. So hell of a performance. And that second half, you take me through that second half because that just blew me away. Just watching that come through on the socials.
It's one of those. It's a weird game, and there's probably 2 aspects of it. It was a bit niggly, and that just continued through the week. All the pre-match stuff went in. 2 yellow cards, a red card, and another red card off the back of 2 yellows. So that it was constant. I don't want to use the term fighting, but it was your handbags breaking out into fighting, and that's when the red cards come out. Ebbw Vale winning the lineouts and the scrums, which is a bit surprising given where their injuries and rotation was, especially given it was a red card to a prop and an injury to another prop in that game. But Newport started taking it out wide, utilising that space and sort of won that Barbarians open style sort of play. Like I said, it was ball in hand a lot of this game. I think this game wouldn't surprise me if it pushes that 40 minutes across the 80, 40-minute ball in play time, where normally you're down near a 30, 32, 33. Ebbw Vale probably could have kicked a little bit more, if I'm honest, and that's probably just how we're going to see Tom Price leading the team and what they wanted. But it opened up and defence out wide just wasn't there for Ebbw Vale. Again, there was a load of young boys in that back line having to change things up, not really spending a lot of time with each other. And in fairness, it was ebb and flow, but you always felt Newport had that. It's like they're throwing first in darts. They score, Ebbw Vale score, but Newport have got that extra bit of time just to get back. So when Ethan Phillips gets that nearly equalising try, the conversion sends it to overtime. Again, I think there was people scratching their head as to what was going to happen because this wouldn't have been the first draw that Ebbw Vale have had in the semi-final of the Cup because it was Cross Keys in about 2008 or something like that. That was a draw and they went out on try count. So, of course, Newport had the try count at this point. Then it goes to converted tries, all of that sort of thing. So people haven't got a clue what's going on. 20 extra minutes, so everyone gets a little bit of extra value for money. Llandovery are rubbing their hands at this point because not only have they got an extra day to recover, you've got a team having to play 100 minutes of rugby in a feisty Gwent derby. So, and I just think, to be honest, Ebbw Vale just ran at the gas. They just did. Two unresponsive tries, in that overtime period has taken them over the line, and that's the difference maker. Ebbw Vale at that point didn't have that response. And in fairness, if we put all of the bullshit to one side just for 5 fucking minutes, this was a hell of a game of rugby from both teams. It was really physical. It was intense. It was end to end. It had drama. It had, unpredictability because it did. even when Newport got 2 scores up at the end, Newport fans, if they're being honest, weren't comfortable with that lead because they'd already blown a lead at one stage. Or we think, oh, here we go. So yeah, that was another fantastic game of rugby, really. And it's a shame it's been marred by all the shit before it because people are only going to remember it for that. And if you weren't there, you missed a fucking hell of a game of rugby. And it sets us up now for a really tasty game of the two favourites. I think most of us have said pre-season Newport and Llandovery were the favourites, the two best teams. And obviously in the cup, it's worked out that way. Llandovery top their pool, Newport top theirs. They've gone through, and it just goes to show that home advantage is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I do like taking digs at Ebu, courtesy of you, obviously. But I've got to stick up for you guys by that second half. I don't know how you pulled it back. You ended up with 2 tries from Ethan Phillips to, draw a level in something like the clock must have been in the red for at least 2-3 minutes
Yeah,
before he finally goes over.
yeah.
And
It's one of those ones. I think everyone's up in arms around the timings because Newport always do their timings based off kickoff. They don't do a stop clock. So Newport's Twitter is like 80 plus 9 or something ridiculous.
12, I think it was.
Yeah, 80 plus 12. And it's like, no, he hasn't played 12 minutes of added time. The referee's not been a wanker here. Like, he's not just playing on. That's just the added time because he stopped his watch and Newport Twitter haven't. But yeah, and again, that's all part of the drama. The fact that Ebervale were attacking to the end, a depleting, injury hits team, all the cards for both sides in this game. And you're going, here we go, crashes over, and you still need a conversion. At that point, it's shit or bust. You miss that conversion as Tom Price. And you can't say, what it had done for his career at Ebervale, but if you miss that conversion in the semi-final of the Cup, is all what would have beens, the Newport factor. It can mentally finish you off. So for him to hit that, to take us to extra time, it just really finished off a great 80 minutes of rugby. And like you said, that little bit of a comeback just to spice it up.
Banging. So we have got our finalists. That was all the games that was played on this past weekend. So, like, share, subscribe, do your thing. You know what we're after.
Nearly at 500 followers on X, Martin. We flying up the last couple of days.
Ooh. Yeah. Flying. So before we do get into this very, very tasty cup and plate final, the league is kicking back off with some of the postponed fixtures getting a chance now in these next fortnight to bring us all back level before we get our first round proper. So first game up, we've got Aberavon at home against Cardiff. And quite honestly, I overall I do think Cardiff will pack too much. They're probably going to resort now back to their usual squad because the same as what they did last year. They brought in quite a lot of under 18s, first year senior rugby players and just let them have fun in the cup, essentially. But now we're back in the league. I think they're going to be hitting it off straight away. They're going to want that win, especially knowing how precarious their positions are. And Aberavon, they, like you said, they've given themselves a very, very good showing in the cup, but ultimately they've come away with next to nothing to show for it. And of course, we don't have Sicky here to back them up. So I'm struggling. Obviously, it will depend on the sides when they come out, but if it's exactly the same as last season and Cardiff are going back full strength from the start,
they will.
I can't see anything other than a Cardiff win on this one.
Yeah, no, they will. They're always the same, especially when you consider the Six Nations starts to wrap up now as well the next couple of weeks. Cardiff then start getting under 20s back. The seniors file in back into the senior squads. And that just frees up your sort of fringe players to start being available for big games. I don't think they're going to go flat out for this one, but I certainly think they'll be pretty much back to full strength. And it'd be interesting to see what Aberavon's response is as well, because I think they're probably a little bit less known. Obviously, Jason Hyatt steps away, and I hope he's doing all right at the moment. Bit of a new, I say new regime is the same sort of setup minus Jason. But they've had obviously a bit of extended time off now. But yeah, for me, it's just a Cardiff win.
Yeah. And Siki, of course, he loves his beloved
He
Aberavan, so
loves them.
he's gonna stick with them. We are thinking of you, Siki, wherever you may be, but yeah, you know we're in
Probably
this week,
hard at
unfortunately.
tag.
Yeah. So the other replay, well, postponed fixtures being replayed, we get to talk about is Bridgend at home to Pontypool, and this is ninth against 10th. You know,
Mm.
and given Pontypool's performances over the last few weeks, that is unbelievable because
Yeah,
they very much are in in performances in the cup, they are 100% a top four team.
yeah,
They
yeah.
really are. And like we've already said, they're going to be a team to watch. They've got 2 games over these next 2 weeks. So there might be a bit of fatigue coming in 2-3 weeks' time. But, up until that point, this is going to be a very, very strong Pontypool. Bridgend, obviously, off the back at RGC, they're going to want to put something up, especially at home. But I think the what Tom Hancock is doing now and having Chief there that effect. I think Pontypool are becoming huge contenders. Probably not for the overall title, given how it's going to end up this season. With the wild card and then how many away games you'd have to win. But they're looking
Mm.
very, very tasty into the future.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of context. You see the 9th and 10th, and Pooler were really poor. They were on Bridgend's level. Chief comes in, his first 2 games, Ebervale away, Ebervale at home. And this is an Ebervale side. Again, let's forget about the cup year. That are 20 points clear in the league. They were flying, all of that sort of stuff. Then he goes into the cup, which you've mentioned. They've been absolutely fantastic in. Picked up a really big result against Newport with the draw. Going all the way against Llandovery. So they'll be really up for this. And they've resolved their scrum issues. The lineout is still a bit iffy, and the midfield is still a bit iffy. But they've got Kieran Meek back now as well. He's been back a couple of weeks. If Harry Ford is starting to get a bit of game time and behind a stronger pack, that benefits him. So all of a sudden, you've got this whirlwind and this concoction of an amazing side starting to come together. And I just think I can see this being a pool of 6-pointer. I really can. Bridgenders are so ill-disciplined at the moment, leaking points left, right, and centre, struggling to compete up front, that I just don't see where Bridgend get into this game. There isn't an aspect of it where I think Bridgend are better than Pontypool. And I got to be honest, I'm a bit worried for Bridgend because if this is a 6-pointer, that starts to open up the gap. And all of a sudden, I don't see Pontypool not going to be looking back. Bridgend will be chasing this game. And I just worry that we're going to have that one team down the bottom. Not that it makes a big deal of things in the grander scheme of how things are going to play out, but just how the league looks. But from a Pontypool perspective, I think they're going to go all right. As you say, I think their aim now will be top 6. I think that's what Chief will want. I know that you can go higher than that, but realistically, 5th makes no difference. You got to get top 4 to benefit you down the line. I think if they can get top 6, then that is a position that they can put themselves in to have an extra week of rest, but it also just pushes them past that. Oh, we got to travel away to somewhere, so you don't have to win that game at the moment. And they're quite a significant way behind. Let's be honest. They are Swansea 6 on 41, Pontypool are bottom on 17. Obviously, there's an extra game in hand for Pontypool. So a 6-point a year could put them on 23, for example. All of a sudden, that's 18 points. That's 3 games. Who knows? That's what I think Chief will want them chasing down. He'll want them going fully out. Let's get out to the wild card and let's go from there. But at a bare minimum, let's finish 7th or 8th home tie in the playoffs, and then go from there.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. I'm looking at the table. I'm looking at Pontypool's fixtures, and they've got to play for the current top six. So not to say it can't be done, because I've no doubt they'll have no problem. Cardiff, Llandovery at home, Newport away. I've no doubt they can win those big games. Swansea, the other one, which is another away game next week, which we'll get on to. You know, they definitely not finishing ninth or 10th, not with the way Bridgend and Aberafon are and the fixtures laid
No.
out. So yeah, it's going to be good to be a Pooler fan for these last 6 weeks of regular season games, and then who knows? Sicky / Bookie, whatever we're calling him, has gone for a draw for this one. So
Oh, he's
wow,
back on the draws.
yeah, he's back on the draws. He's really, really making us guess
Hey,
this week
Bookie's
round.
draws are down.
Okay. So now we get on to the main event on Saturday, starting from 2:30. But first, we have to talk about the actual venue for the final, and it's ended up being at Cap. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is just the cheapest possible move the WRU have gone for. You know what? We own Cardiff right now. We got the Lisa Cap. It's going to cost us a hell of a lot less money to put on the game there than it is at the Millennium. Let's just chuck them both in there and charge £15 a ticket. Now I'd have no issue with £15 a ticket in the Millennium, but at the Arms Park, you've got a good chance of trying to get close to five figures if you price it right. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm disappointed with that fact. I mean, when we were spoken to WRU earlier this season, they said they were looking at maybe a regional ground for these finals, and for me, there was only two real options. You either play it at the National Stadium, or you send it to Parc y Scarlets, just because the infrastructure around getting teams on buses in there. Because you look with it, there's nothing available in Swansea. If you're in Cardiff, you've got to be at the National Stadium. I really don't understand why you would want a final at Cap. No disrespect meant there. And Newport accessibility for that many teams and that many buses is just not there. So, it was a real disappointment. But the fact it came off 5 days before the actual finals is a bit of a kick in the teeth. Like, I spoke with Joe Thomas after Swansea won on the weekend, and he's like, "Oh, do you know where the final is yet?" He's like, "Nah, I'm got a clue, mate." It's,
yeah.
it's like how a team has booked a place in the final and they don't know where
That's
it is.
that's just it. It also just, I think, you just add the excitement if you know what's happening. You know, if you're playing for it's going to be at your ground. If you're going to travel, if it's going to be at the stadium. I understand that the restraints around playing on a pitch when you've got Italy in a week's time. There's going to be restraints because they can't afford any issues around quality of pitch, the PR disaster, stuff like that. But that for me is why you alter the dates and stretch the cup out, because this is the pinnacle of Welsh rugby, Welsh club rugby. These are the two biggest cup games, and they, by and large, the only two cup games of all the major divisions in men's rugby that aren't played at the stadium. There's 4 games in one day for like the Premiership and downwards. You've gone for a double header. I totally agree with you. 15 quid. Yeah, right. You get 2 games, but you've got RGC coming down. Like, they're not going to bring a ridiculously big crowd for a plate during the Six Nations, but you've got people in because Wales have played on the Friday night, so people are already down. 10 quid a ticket, concessions for a fiver, under 16s for free. Like, let's just market this a little bit better. There's no live broadcast either, so there's neither game will be televised in any shape or form. It's not on Click, it's not on YouTube, it won't be rerun in full. There's cameras there to basically run the highlight show, which is very late at night on and I don't mean this disrespectfully to SRC, a channel that is not huge, is not what the big ones. It's not like you're gonna, oh, this is BBC and there's people from all over the UK going, oh, what's this Super Rugby Cymru? You know what I mean? So it's just been marketed really poorly. It's just the timing of everything. It just doesn't line up, and again, it just feels like a bit of a throwaway competition. The WRU may well care about this, and they're doing a lot of good work around the SRC, both the league, the playoffs, and the cup itself. But everything around the cancelled fixtures, the issues, the noise that the cup has generated in negative terms, it's nothing to do with the union, but that will generate negative PR. You have to nail this. And unfortunately, whilst I think that the Arms Park is probably one of the better venues to hold it at for accessibility, you know, trains down, it's relatively easy off the M4 corridor for Colwyn Bay fans. Swansea's an hour in on the train. Llandovery, all right, they're in the arse end of nowhere unless you play it in Llandovery anyway. Newport's 15 minutes on a train. But as you said, let's get big 5,000 plus people here. The biggest crowd officially last season was just over 4,000 people across, you know, the SRC competitions. So let's try and beat that. That should be. It's not a KPI because, you know, no one's working. You know, it's not a contracted out, but that's what they should be looking at. Let's beat that. How do we beat that? Let's make this an event. You know, let's get, you know, S4C coverage there, a bit of a, you know, live broadcast, you know, pushing it through. Like, they could do so much with a double header. Like, we've been big supporters of the plate competition, but like, you look at that cup competition, it's 5:30, right? That's fine, but there's no coverage about it. It's silent. You're playing it on a Welsh rugby weekend, so 300,000, 400,000 people only cared about one result, the one this Friday night. And there's so much apathy around that when Wales get fucking tanked in Dublin, no one's interested in going out and having another night on the beer and having an all day because they just don't know is there.
Yeah. I mean, I want to compound all the negativity now just so we can focus on the actual finals and be positive. You know, facts are this season there's been 7 rounds of cup fixtures spread over 7 weeks. Last year there was 6 rounds of cup action spread over 9 weeks. And that tells you all you need to know straight away. They haven't planned for anything possibly, you know, going wrong. And I'm gonna quickly divulge back in to last season's because I think it actually went perfect last year. There wasn't a single postponed game.
No.
I think that lulled them into a false sense of security, yeah? When they've gone, oh, we've had 3 dodgy weeks by year where, you know, we could have been doing something else. And because obviously the season's, you know, the final is 2 weeks earlier. Obviously the extra rounders pushed the 3-week gap. Obviously, and the actual season is finishing a good few weeks earlier as well. So it just seems that in terms of planning, they've taken a massive backward step, and I don't understand how they've come to these sorts of decisions. But you know, it is something that needs resolving straight away. Even if you do go round 1 to week off, round 3, like the old Six Nations. Obviously, this year's the first one, but you know you have 2 fallow weeks, and you know if you've got, you know, whatever way you are, if you've got a replay fixture, you've got the space to do it, and you're gonna get the odd postponement from the league anyway, so you'll put those fixtures in. So you're not because we've got a week off now. You know, after this weekend, there's just a blank week. You know what was wrong with pushing the final
That's just
another week forward, or pushing something a week forward just to allow some of these games or a possibility of most of these games to be covered?
You move the league around, right? You play 3 games in 2025. You play the rest of the 2 pool games in 2026. Have a week off semi-final, fortnight off final. One that allows proper PR, proper marketing, and you allow for a few injuries to rest, supporters, buses, etc., get organised properly. You build up the hype, the social media interest, etc. All the vignettes, the coverage for TV gives the TV company, gives Whisper and S4C chance to build their little bits and embed that throughout the weeks. And then also, it's like simple things. So the amount of people that want to go out and buy a flag, etc., get them personalised or get in T-shirts. It allows clubs and supporters to do little things like that. That again just build up interest, increase the crowd, increase the commercial activity around it, and that's what I'd be looking at. I mean, personally, I think there's a gap where they could open this cup competition out to other leagues and make it a little bit bigger. But that's a wider discussion. But yeah, I think they need to split the cup competition across the season. One, to keep everybody interested, and people don't just shut down after 4 weeks because their side is done, or 3 weeks if their side is out of it. But also, it just allows for the replays and just gives you a bit of gap and bit of leeway.
I mean, I'd certainly have no issue with their saying using the international break weeks or using majority of the international break weeks as as your cup fixtures, because obviously it won't affect the SRC clubs. And it's not like right now where obviously the US, the regions have had a fixture this past weekend. So if obviously I'd look into the other teams more to get a better answer. But just looking at Quins, for example, they've lost their 10, they've lost their 12. You know, you wouldn't lose those sort of players if you're doing it when the regions are not playing. And not just that, if you can do it on weekends, obviously there's the argument of the lower leagues playing on those dates as well. But you do it on those. If it's the only rugby around outside of the international game, chances are you can build something, make it a bigger crowd. And if we look at this season's, in particular right now, all the all 8 semi-finalists, because obviously the two competitions, the moment they knew they were in there, if they knew where the final was, they would have had a bus provisionally booked 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, whatever it is. And so the cost that's going to incur on them now, is it's obviously it's blowing up for them, because not only has it become short notice, finding out where it is, blah blah, but it's short notice, but he arranging travel, which is always a hell of a lot more expensive. Okay, enough negativity. Do you have anything lasting to say before we crack on and talk like men?
No.
Okay, so let's have a look at this plate final. That is first up, 2:30, and I have managed to hear off all the coaches uh, in this case. So let's start with RGC's John Callard. Really pleased with our performance against Bridgend, though our praise and thoughts go to the Bridgend club after losing one of the players' parent the night before the game. I didn't know that. Christ.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers. Must have been difficult. We commend them for the game. Final will be a special occasion for us, win or lose. I just hope we can represent the whole of North Wales with pride and show the best version of ourselves with thanks. Not bad. Let me get over to Joe Thomas, because I've had to paraphrase by you. So bear with. Everyone at the club is massively excited for the final. It's the club's first final for many years. Boys have worked really hard to get there and deserve it. We know it'll be a tough match against RGC, who are really firing at the moment. We've done the league double over them, but this is a cup final. Everything goes out the window. They've got some very dangerous backs and powerful forwards. It's a huge test that we're looking forward to. We want to keep growing, and being in a position to pick up silverware is exhilarating. So obviously the mentions for the Bridgend players' family, obviously, thoughts, everything, that's obviously hard to deal with. But talking specifically about this match, both of them seem up for this. You've got John Callard talking about regional pride in terms of everyone in RGC, and Joe Thomas talking about Swansea pride, about what this is doing for the club. So this is going to be a huge game. This is going to be intense. And I really want Swansea to win this just because they beat Quins in the semi final. And I don't like saying I lost the losers. So that's my reason. That's why I want Swansea to win it. Do I think Swansea will win it? Ah, I can't. It's RGC are just firing too hard for me at the minute. They're on a service they like. They're at the venue that I think they won there this season. I think they might have won there last season as well. So they're very very comfortable at Cap, and Christ with the man of the moment, Billy McBride. If I let me get up the top scorers because this is something really interesting as well. So of the four finalists, four of their 10, all of their tens are in the top five of the top point scorers. So you've got Jack Lloyd on 47, Johan Hughes and Billy McBride on 44, and then Josh Phillips tied in fourth on 26. So we know where the points are coming from.
Yeah.
These teams are going to be properly. You probably not so much Swansea, but when you've played 5 games and your tens are all pushing 50 points, you know that's they're the they're the decision makers in the game. Those are the decisive kicks that will make the difference. So we've spoken about Swansea last week. We know how dangerous their pack will be, especially their back five forwards at the ruck, just basically pilfering ball, causing problems. Can they do enough to stop this RGC getting ahead before they even start?
I don't know. I think they sort of start the play into each other's hands. I think Swansea like to play a bit more of an expansive game plan. And I think they're going to enjoy disrupting. But like you said, I just got a feeling RGC are on that bit of a hit. They they really are in good form. They're not fearing anybody. It's a surface they're used to, and that'll suit their attacking from deep, sort of we'll go from anywhere sort of style. But I think it'll be a good competition. I think it'll be a high scoring affair as well. So yeah, it's for me is RGC, and I'll be honest, I'm looking forward to RGC if they can try and win it. I don't mind who wins this one. I'll be honest, but I think RGC deserve it because they've been shaping such a good performances, good style of rugby, is easy on the eye, and they've been getting good crowds as well. And that's something that I think you should reward people for, ultimately. So yeah, I think RGC is going to do this one. But what's Sicky said about this one?
Well, Sicky has actually said "fuck the North," and he's gone for Swansea. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why he's come out with that, but I thought he was a bit harsh personally. But it's his words,
I'm
not
surprised he's
mine.
gone with Swansea being an Amber supporter, but
Oh, he's in his Australian mood at the minute. Oh, let's stick together. Let's go pull an EGM and stuff. Okay,
yeah.
so we've played the plate final. That's done and dusted. We're now an hour away from kickoff. We're approaching 5:30 on Saturday. Llandovery and Newport walk onto that field. I can't explain how excited I am for this game, and I'd be boiling over the top if it was on TV because it's going to be an amazing game to watch. Just
Mm.
because we know for the past few years, even though Llandovery didn't make the league final, Newport, a few years before that, were making finals regularly. They play the best all-round rugby in this league. They are 1 and 2. Their forwards can match with anyone. Their backs can match with anyone. And like you said earlier, this is just an absolutely beautiful turnout. So let's get on to coach's comments. Who do we start with? Euros is closest on my list. So delighted to be in the final once again. The competition has that classic Carabao Cup feel. Earlier rounds give teams a chance to rotate, mix things up, but as you reach a latter stage, it's clear how much it means. With sides fielding strong lineups to lift the trophy, we're expecting a tough challenge against Newport, and we're looking forward to what should be a fantastic game. Down now to Ty Morris with a long one, as always. Very proud to have reached another final. Sunday was an epic physical contest that went to extra time, became a real war of attrition. Couldn't be proud of the way the players dug in, even going down to 13 men to overcome an excellent, resilient Ebbw Vale. Focus now shifts to Llandyfri, who also came through a tough semi against Pontypool. Having faced Drovers in several finals over recent seasons, we know exactly what they bring. Very well coached team with threats right across the park. This week we've spoken about how we're starting to find our flow, really reinforce our DNA, imposing our game on opponents. Recovery will be key for the players after such a demanding battle. You've already pointed that one out, Rob. They'll need to go back to the well again if we're to get the job done this weekend. Promises to be a proper arm wrestle with both sides well matched in every area. Saturday doubleheader makes it even better. Great occasion for supporters to enjoy a full day of top class rugby. Really looking forward to the battle on Saturday. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. How big is that 1 day removed and 100 minutes of rugby gonna be? Because it's not just the physical aspect; it's the emotional aspect. You know, winning a derby in a semi-final, winning a derby in a semi-final after extra time. That just that really gives you a huge hit of emotions. Can you replicate that 6 days later?
Yeah, that's probably going to be a bit of a difficult one in terms of how they try to manage it. The league is easier when you win the league because that's your season done. You know, they won it last year. They obviously didn't. They didn't have any games to play after it. Went on tour to Texas and then struggled to start the season. But I don't think that's carrying, the emotion with them too much. It'll play a little bit, but I think they're professional enough and a good enough team to carry it over. I think they got a strong Dragons allocation, which aids all of that as well. I think there's one key area, and I got to be honest, it's the line out because Newport struggled at the line out at the weekend. It's got them out of many a holes this season though, so it's not like their line out is a weak point. But Llandyfri have started, and it's very interesting to see if they do it against Newport. But very early doors, they start jumping across. They did it against Pontypool, they've done it against Ebbw Vale, and it takes quite a long time to adjust when you have a team illegally moving across the gap. And I'm very interested to see if that's one picked up, but also how Newport managed that. They got some very senior players in that pack. Your players like your Josh Skinner, your Ben Roach, Henry Palmer, all throughout that line out, are going to be experienced to deal with things like that. And I think this is going to be a very close game. I do think Llandyfri have just got a little bit too much at the moment, maybe that little bit of experience. And I just feel that Llandyfri are the side. They've got to try and win something this season. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's an end of an era season. You get that feeling, obviously, Lee Reese has already announced that he's off. You get a feeling that probably three to five players in that sort of 32 to 34 age bracket, of which they have half a dozen, will also retire at the end of the season, given either a drop off in performances or the time is right. And I feel that this is it's not a certainty of silverware, right? But this is like the nailed on. All right, the league. I mean, they're 20 points away. That's a long way and a lot of rugby away. Take your opportunity at silverware while you can. So for me, it's a Llandyfri win, but not by much.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you there. I do think it's going to be a Drovers win, and I really wouldn't be surprised this year by 1, 2, or 3 points. I really wouldn't. A one score game would probably do it justice. Now you've spoken about Newport and having a good allocation, and Drovers have gone the absolute opposite. They've gone through most of the season playing with an excess of 5, 6, 7. I think I saw 9 boys in the 23 at one point.
It was 10 at
They
one point, yeah.
that's the one. They only had one allocated player in T and Sparrow in the entire 23, and he was on the bench. They really have reverted to, the boys that they've had all along. There are some injury issues. I mean, outside Berry and Watkins, you know, we had a new boy in Iron Morgan step up on the weekend. We also had Dino Dalla Valle playing as replacement loosehead, which was quite a surprise. You know, there is there are some issues there in terms of the strength of the bench. Especially that front five really more than like we haven't seen Chris Long in a ridiculous amount of time.
You just get a feeling though there's going to be that they can pull on them Scarlets a little bit at key times. I think that's going to be the interesting one this week is the allocation drop down.
Yeah.
I think that in some ways saves both sides. Llandovery without an allocation this season, whilst quite a few people up there, I think that they play better rugby with fewer numbers in there, and I don't disagree with that. It, undoubtedly, that their allocation is strong in areas that they are weak, and that's similar to Newport, but Newport have a better balance.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's so intriguing to see it. Well, obviously, we know the halfbacks. We know majority of the pack. Like, I can't see, obviously Josh Morse, Harry Thomas. They were mainstays in this Drovers team last year, and even the year before to a certain extent. I'm not seeing those boys, being involved as much. Obviously, Will Evans, for no love, no money, he can get more than a few months without an injury. And if we're looking on strength of actual squad, I do think Newport are slightly edging it right now in terms of if you're looking at strength of 23, strength of 15 is probably in Llandovery's favour, ever so slightly. But it is going to come down to how they're using that bench, how the players react in high pressure moments. We've seen what Corey Baldwin has done already this season in a high pressure moment. So it's very, very intriguing. And to round off the predictions, Sicky has, talked a bit of common sense for the first time in a very long time. He's given us a clean sweep. He's given us Llandovery all across the
Good
board.
man, good
Good
man,
man.
City.
Okay, I think we're around the hour point now. So thank you guys for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, I think there's a shop underneath, hype, wherever. Comment. We love you in your comments. If you see any of us at the ground, most likely Robert in every real game, pop over, say hello, tell him to stop eating the pies and whatnot, and we'll move on with our lives. Thank you for listening. We will do all again next week and review some very, very epic clashes. Rob, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Super.